Hello everybody, my name is Kyle3639. Welcome back to another video. Today in this one, it's another top 5 video, and in this one, it's a top 5 cards that doesn't need to be on the ban list anymore. Now, the criteria for this video is not cards that I think will be taken off the ban list. If you want to see my predictions for that, you can watch my prediction video. I'll put it in the link description down below. Now, I'll be talking about cards that are on the ban list that don't need to be on there for any rhyme or reason, that can come back to 3 and probably would not cause that much of a problem. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Honorable mentions are any cards that causes rolling issues. Now, the cards themselves are not good in any rhyme or reason. If you're going to use Victory Dragon to try to win the match, and then you get they scoop before you can do that direct attack, well, that's kind of on you for using a shit card like Victory Dragon. But the only reason why they're on the ban list is because, well, they cause rolling issues. Like I said with Victory Dragon, a person can simply give up before Victory Dragon declares an attack for its effect, and then it would cause an issue in where the person that's using Victory Dragon is like, no, you can't do that, when you can do that. But again, Victory Dragon itself is shit and can come back to 3, but the fact that it causes that issue alone is the reason why it's still on the ban list, and probably should stay there. I think it can come back to 3 no problem, but it causes an issue for rolling, so that's why it's on the ban list. Same thing with self-destruct button. It's banned because of rolling issues, especially with the new time rules now. That's why it's currently banned, not because it's a good card whatsoever. A card that causes only ties and nothing else. It's on the ban list. It's a very shit card, but the fact that it causes time rolling issues is the reason why it's on the ban list. Now, the cards themselves are shit, but when you compare them with the time rules and the rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! In a tournament, it does cause somewhat of an issue, and that's why they are honorable mentions. But I will still say Victory Dragon can come back to 3. No problem. That's your fault for using a shit card like Victory Dragon, and they concede before you even do the attack. But yeah, that's my opinion on that, but let's get into the top 5. Coming in at number 5, it's Yata-Garasu. Oh boy, howdy. This is a card that originally was on the original ban list for a good reason back then, but have no rhyme or reason today to be on the ban list. So if you don't know Yata-Garasu's effect, it's a spirit monster, so it cannot be special summoned, and it returns to your hand after the turn it was summoned will return to its hand during the end phase. But when this card inflicts battle damage, your opponent cannot draw their next draw phase. Now, this was a problem back then with CED Yata-Lock. Basically, they would use Chaos Emperor Dragon to get rid of the whole field and entire hand for both players. But they would players would have Witch of the Black Forest. Witch of the Black Forest would search out Yata-Garasu, and then they would normal summon Yata-Garasu, deal damage, and then keep doing that over and over again until it's eventually game. Now, the problem with that in today's metagame is, 1, Chaos Emperor Dragon is now errataed, and it's not that much of a problem anymore. And 2, there's so many graveyard-based strategies now. There's not that many good, like, you know, I need to draw. Like, think, for example, Eldritch, for example. They don't really need their draw phase. They have traps in graveyard. They can banish. They can get shit set onto the field. That's not that much of a problem if they can't draw for 1 turn. There's a lot of graveyard-based strategies now that you just, who cares if you don't get your draw phase? You have your graveyard and stuff. So it's like one of those things like Yata-Garasu wouldn't be that much a problem. First off, you have to waste your normal summon on it, and only your normal summon, because you can't special summon it, because it's a spirit monster. So there's that going for it. So you have to have a deck that does not waste its normal summon, and then it returns to your hand, and then your opponent has to have a deck that has to draw and doesn't use a graveyard-based strategy, which in today's meta is, honestly, that's the huge problem with that. Everything uses graveyard-based strategies now, that Yata-Garasu would not be that much of a problem. So I think it can come back without a problem, but people are still going to want it to be on the ban list, because they'll remember the Chaos Emperor Dragon Yata-Lock bullshit, and they're like, please keep that on the ban list. It can come back, no problem though. Coming in at number 4 is Wind-Up Carrier Zenmaity. Now, this card is a somewhat problem with a Wind-Up Hunter. Now, here's my thing for it. You can actually just swap both cards, because Wind-Up Hunter is more of a problem card than Zenmaity is. So if you just ban Hunter and then bring Zenmaity back, there wouldn't be that much of a problem. I think giving the Wind-Ups a good rank 3, like Wind-Up Carrier Zenmaity, would be very good. But if you ban Hunter, it would not be the hand looping bullshit like it used to do. That's why Zen Melee was banned, is because it was able to do hand looping bullshit with Wind Up Hunter. Now, the problem with that combo is Wind Up Hunter is not the once per turn effect, so it should be Wind Up Hunter that should be banned, but it's currently not. This is more like a Reddit hit. A lot of people on Reddit been saying, hey, let's bring Zen Melee back to 3, but let's ban Wind Up Hunter. I think it wouldn't be that much of a problem if you do it that way. Good rank 3 for the Wind Up. Like, the Wind Ups are going to do anything with Zen Melee. Even if they do, they don't have Wind Up Hunter anymore, so it's like not that much of a problem. So my number 4 is basically put Zen Melee back, but you have to ban Hunter at the same time. So yeah, that's my thing with number 4. So yeah, again, it's on the ban list for a good reason, but if you swap it with Wind Up Hunter, it can come back to 3 without a problem. So yeah, that is my number. Coming in at number 3 is Tellarknight Tolmaeus. Now, I had to look this up on why this was banned, because when I first read its effect, I'm like, why is that a bad thing? So its effect is basically you can detach 3 materials from this card once per turn during either player's turn. You can detach 3, summoning a rank 5 onto himself, and it will treat it as an XYZ summon. So it's basically like a rank up, basically, in today's game. This card is banned because back then it was able to level 4s were able to access the rank 5 engine, which they shouldn't have back then. So people would do with this card, they would either they would either go into Cyber Dragon Nova during their turn and then go in Infinity to have 1 negation on board. 2, they would activate during their opponent's turn and get Azathoth onto field, which, okay. And then number 3, they would do the same thing, but instead of Azathoth, they would pull out Pleiades during either player's turn again, and then just have that be a problem for their opponent. Now, here's the thing. First off, Azathoth is now currently banned because of that first and now bottom effect. So Azathoth is no longer a problem. Number 2, the game has been sped up so fast that Infinity and Pleiades are no longer that much of a problem. Now, Cyber Dragons have that access to Infinity, and they've been a rogue deck, but not because of Infinity. It's been because of their OTK potential that involves nothing to do with Infinity whatsoever. So Infinity and Pleiades has been used in Eldritch, but that's because they can actually pull it out using their actual Golden Land trap cards and Conquistador and Haketo. But it's, again, not that much of a problem. Pleiades and Infinity are no longer a problem. Azathoth is banned, so you don't need to worry about that anymore. So I think this can come back no problem. There's really no other problematic rank 5s right now, because Azathoth was really the only problematic one out of the 3. And Azathoth is now currently banned. So I think this can come back no problem. If you're able to access Cyber Dragon Infinity and, Pleiades, go right a fucking head, because that's not a problem anymore. So yeah, this comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2 is Butterfly Dagger Elma. So this was banned because of FTK reasons, and when you hear FTK reasons, you're like, wait a minute, why do you want this off the ban list if it causes an FTK? Well, it's because that FTK would be way super inconsistent. Nowadays, it's basically any negation would stop it too, and then Butterfly Dagger Elma can actually miss time as well, so that's another thing to it. So basically, back then, why it got banned is basically you would have a Magical Library on field and a Gear Field, the Iron Knight on field, and then have Elma in your hand. And the combo the FTK basically went activate Elma onto Gear Field. Gear Field's effect would kick in, destroying the Elma. Then Elma's effect would add back to hand. Then Magical Library would gain a counter because a spell was activated in Elma, so it would gain a counter. And then Library's effect is when you get 3 counters onto it, take all 3 off, draw 1 card. That's not once per turn. So basically, you would do this like infinite loop where you summon Elma, get Gear Field to destroy it, get a counter on Magical Library, do that infinite amount of times to draw your entire deck, and then win because you would put Exodia in your deck to draw out your entire deck. So that's what the FTK is then. Basically, that FTK would be way too inconsistent to do now. Like I said, basically you would have to waste 2 normal summons. I guess you can special summon Library if you want to, but like Gear Field would have to be a normal summon without a doubt. You would have to get Dagger into hand, and then your opponent would have to have no negations to it, because the negations actually exist now, and then Butterfly Dagger Elma would not have to miss time. Because like I said, since it has a win clause on Dagger Elma, it can actually miss time. So if your opponent just does something into response of Dagger Elma, basically Elma would miss time and it would not get its effect off. So that's how old this card is. I think it could come off the ban list. I think the FTK is just way too inconsistent to do now. But it's at number 2. It's not at number 1 because number 1 is way more degenerate, or does not need to be on the ban list for any reason. You can somewhat argue why this still needs to be on the ban list, but number 1 for sure, there's no problem for it to come back. But speaking of number 1, let's get into number 1. And at number 1, it is Time Seal. Dear God. This is at number 1 for the same reason as Yata-Garasu was at number 5. It was banned because it can able to skip your opponent's draw phase. That's no longer a problem. Like I said, at number 5, there's plenty of graveyard-based strategies that doesn't need their draw phase anymore, such as Eldritch. They can just banish their traps, get their set onto field. They don't need their draw phase that much anyways. So this is actually worse than Yata-Garasu, because at least Yata-Garasu, you can get that straight away. By just attacking, you get that straight away. Time Seal is one of those cards, since it's a trap card, you have to wait a turn to activate it. So basically, if you set this on turn 1 and then activate it on turn 2, your opponent still gets to draw for turn 2 because they have to draw for their turn to start, and then Time Seal can activate. So basically, the earliest this can activate is turn 4, and that's only if you're going first. If you're going second, then it's turn 5. So yeah, and basically in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Turns don't go that far anymore. I mean, if you're control versus control, maybe. But again, like I said, Time Seal is not that much of a problem because skipping draw phase is no longer that much of a problem. So this is why it's at number 1. It's way worse than Yata-Garasu because Yata-Garasu can immediately get its effect. Time Seal, you have to wait for it to get its effect. You have to wait basically a couple turns just for this to actually gain that effect. So yeah, this is obviously number 1. This can come back to 3, and no one can use it. So yeah, that is it for the video. If you did enjoy it, leave a like and subscribe for more. I will be uploading Yu-Gi-Oh! Content every single day except for Sunday. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.